With us now, Peter Pitts, former Associate Commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Is Bobby Kennedy getting treated fairly?
Of course not. This is Washington. Why should he expect to be treated fairly? He's a Trump nominee. Why should he be expected to be treated fairly? You know, he is against lots of things. Some of the opinions I don't agree with, but he is against the status quo. And I think giving the status quo a swift kick in the ass is a good thing. It keeps people on their toes. It's creative destruction. And if we can get some positive outcomes, because people are actually thinking about doing something different, that's all to the good. And people want to marginalize themselves and make from a Bobby Kennedy, that's their privilege. I believe in positive engagement. I'm not going to trivialize myself before the administration has even begun. You know, whether the guy knows what he's doing remains to be seen. But he's there. He's a status quo buster, and he has to be dealt with. So let's do that positively and seek some real positive change.
Whether it be RFK Jr. or Matt Gaetz or Pete Hegseth at DOD, there is this feeling that this one person at the head, by nominating this one cabinet secretary, they are going to tear apart the Washington bureaucracy and the agencies. In fact, here's Bobby Kennedy talking about how he may send NIH employees that he can't fire, National Institute of Health employees, to Guam. Take a listen.
We're going to fire on day one, or if you can't fire them, we can ship them to a new HHS headquarters in Guam.
Everybody roars, everybody laughs, but doesn't that sort of say the quiet part out loud, that dismantling these bureaucracies is next to impossible?
I think that's exactly right. I think the people at FDA, for example, the 20,000 employees of FDA are incredibly devoted. They really care about their jobs. They're on personal public health missions. Does that mean they do everything right all the time? It certainly does not. But when someone comes in from the outside, they've got to earn the respect of the career staff, but they've got to give the new secretary the respect that the position deserves. They've got to listen to what he wants. They've got to answer him. You want to talk about vaccines? That's great. Let's talk about vaccines. Maybe it's an opportunity to restore America's faith in the FDA and vaccines. It's an opportunity. He wants to talk about reforming the FDA's nutrition programs. They need to be reformed. You know, if we want to think about diet and exercise as a key foundation of lowering healthcare costs in this country, let's do that. Let's talk about animal vaccines. That's incredibly important. Let's talk about dealing with the supply chain and drug shortages. These are things that have been going on for too long. They are real dangers to our public health. Maybe it takes an outsider to focus on things other than the price of drugs.
No, I hear you, Peter. And you think about 1960s versus now, obesity rate from 13% to 40, diabetes rate from 2% to 12, healthcare spending 5% of GDP up to 17% of GDP. So we're paying a lot more and getting far worse results. To your point, there's something wrong. There's the conversations we're having, as well-intentioned as our public health officials are, they haven't been getting us results. You need to have a conversation about that. This is more about just sort of how bureaucracies work. And what I'm hearing from you is that perhaps Donald Trump supporters, of which there are many, and understandably they're angry about how things in America are, their idea that just appointing these cabinet secretaries would be some kind of panacea and these massive bureaucracies are going to change because Bobby Kennedy shows up at HHS, it just seems a little far-fetched to me.
Well, it's naive. It's like out of the movies where one day a new guy comes in and the next day everything's beautiful. That's not the way that it works. But the secretary can, for example, appoint an innovation czar. He can say, I control FDA and CDC and NIH and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. I want one person on top of all of that to drive innovation and cost savings and make sure that all these pieces work together. And that can have systemic changes even after any given secretary or any given administration leaves office. Success really happens if you can change systemically the way a bureaucracy works. And it's hard and it takes time and effort, but it can be done with focus and knowledge. And that's why any secretary needs to have people below him or her that really understand how the bureaucracy works so they can change it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to change it when you don't have that second tier or third tier of deputy assistant secretaries on and on. Peter, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
My pleasure. Thank you. You too.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.